Sting versus Hogan 2, the rematch, the epic counter, one more time, twice in a lifetime. Took place at SuperBrawl 98. Okay, before I get into the match, let's talk about some backstory. Okay, so we're on the eve of Starrcade. Sting defeated Hulk Hogan in Hollywood Hulk Hogan in a controversial fashion, and it led to a rematch on the next night on Nitro, and that ended prematurely, so that ended in controversy. So on the premiere of WCW Thunder, J.J. Dillon vacated the WCW World Heavyweight Championship and immediately set a rematch for Super Brawl 98. Sting spoke for the first time, saying, "You got no guts," and to Hogan saying, "You're a dead man." And then you also have, in the meantime, the NWO starting its dissension. You see, after Sting versus Hogan, after the second match encounter on Nitro, the NWO started having differences of opinions. Like Hollywood Hulk Hogan was becoming egotistical, much more so than usual. Yeah, I went there. And Kevin Nash was all about the NWO and what they wanted to do, while Hulk Hogan was being all about himself. Huh. Is this real life or is this fictional? I have a hard time telling. So there was a huge amount of dissension brewing for the last month and a half during the build to Super Brawl 98. Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan started trading fists. Randy Savage was getting dissension with Hogan. Then it came to a blow at Super Bowl 98 when Hulk Hogan ordered the NWO to not support Randy Savage in his match against Lex Luthor on the same night, and that would come back to bite him in the ass. I'll get to that in a bit. And also on the eve of that night, they had just recently won the tag team gold again with the Outsiders and recently recruited Scott Steiner. So there was that. And then we finally get Sting versus Hogan. So we have the NWO dissension, the Sting's retaliation against J.J. Dillon. You have this and that, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about how the match was. It was okay, like, it was longer, clocking in around 16 minutes and 33 seconds as compared to the last encounter, which was 12 minutes. Well, I think less than 12 minutes. Um, Sting and Hogan, like, they did the best they could, but they had, like, let's see, they had to compete with the cruiserweights, and that would be difficult to do, um, which is very difficult to do, and you have, well, Diamond Dallas Page defeating Chris Benoit, aka he who must not be named in the wrestling business. Um, Now, Sting rushed down to the ring. Hogan started hitting him with his trademark Hollywood belt on his back, and Hogan was dominating for most of the matchup. And then Sting got a few sprouts of energy to fight back, but mostly it was a repeat of the 1997 Starrcade bout where Hogan was dominating, and then Sting came around and pulled Superman, and there was occasional moments where Sting had him and Hogan didn't. Then Charles Robinson gets knocked out by I think it was Hogan. Oh wait, no, by Sting when they did the dive splash, the Stinger splash. I mean, to Hogan, but Hogan used the referee, and that's pretty much what happened to Charles Robinson on that night. So they got Nick Patrick, who has a history with the NWO, being a former referee member, and he was calling the match fair where Hogan was saying, "Hey, it's your boy, Hollywood Hogan," and Nick Patrick was having none of that, especially since he was temporarily suspended in storyline and then was later brought back on the same night. Hogan and Sting went at it for another couple of minutes. Then the NWO started getting in the ring after when Stinger went for the Stinger with the Scorpion Death Drop, Hogan kicked Nick Patrick in the gut and knocked him out, and then NWO members started coming in to help Hogan, and Sting fought some of them off, and unknowingly behind him, Randy Savage came back into the ring, looking like he's going to help him, and then bam, nailed in the head with a spray canister to Hogan's head, and Sting got the pinfall victory, and J.J. Dillon came out, rewarded the belt to Sting, and Sting ended the show with writing WCW on Hulk Hogan's body, and that was pretty much the end of the match and the show. Now, this match, it was better than their Starrcade bout, I gotta be honest, but it was more of the same thing, just the match was a little bit longer. And I think people had lost that energy they had for it because, well, the cruiserweights and the fact that this build-up was 2 months as opposed to a year-long build-up, and how what went down in Starrcade that day, how they wanted to see the match actually happen. They didn't want all this overbooked stuff, and they wanted a clean victory. And Hollywood Hogan, well, he's not known to deliver clean victories most of the time. So, what can you do on that? So, Sting had to do this and that, trying to make this match work, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really working out so much. So, well, that's history now, and while I do think this match was fairly better than their encounter at Starrcade, um, it certainly doesn't really rival it in terms of huge amount of anticipation, since this was the rematch, but they were only given 2 months to build it. Whereas, and I'm not believe I'm going to say this, John Cena versus The Rock 2 had a year-long build-up, subtly, since they were building up Cena's downward spiral. You will not believe how hard it was for me to say that. So, yeah. Um, so those are my thoughts on Sting versus Hogan 2 at SuperBrawl 98. This was, oh, and before I finish that off, let's talk about the aftermath. Further dissension within the NWO. Scott Hall challenges Sting to a match as uncensored due to his World War III victory back in '97. The Sting beats him in 8 minutes. Yeah, and I'll talk about Randy Savage versus Sting in their no DQ match when I watch it. Uh, and then afterwards, Hogan starts having more issues with Kevin Nash, and then all of a sudden the next night on Nitro, after Randy Savage versus Sting at Spring Stampede, um, Hollywood Hogan challenges Randy Savage for the title. Randy Savage loses his because Bret Hart came out. I'll talk about that match in a late future video maybe. So those were over my thoughts on Sting versus Hogan 2 at SuperBrawl 98. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.